Did you know? It costs 6 to 9 months of salary to replace just one employee. Retaining your team isn't just about happiness, it's about your company's survival. All right, in this video, I'm gonna give you several critical steps you need to be implementing in your business if you wanna keep your employees happy and productive. So when I started my first company, I had massive issues with retaining my employees and I couldn't figure out why. I'd hire somebody, I'd hire whoever, and try and train them really quick, get them working, let them do their thing. And I just kept getting employees that would either just not show up to work or they'd quit. And I couldn't figure out how to keep those employees engaged and bought into the business. And it took me several months to finally figure out what I had to do in order to keep those employees around, keep them productive, and grow within my company. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what I did that took my retention rate from people leaving every month to people sticking around for years. The first step might seem very obvious, but you have to be hiring the correct people for the job. It's not just hiring someone that is qualified. You need to make sure you're hiring people with really good attitudes that are teachable. One bad hire can really ruin the atmosphere and culture of your business. And that was my issue. I was just hiring whoever applied for the job because I just wanted to have employees so badly. And so this is what you need to do if you want to be able to get the right employees and have them stick around for a long time. So when you're putting your ads out, looking for employees, make sure you're being very specific on what you're looking for, the types of traits you're looking for, hardworking, honest. Be very specific in your ad at what they are going to be doing, what the job entails. Don't try and sugarcoat anything. You don't want people coming in thinking it's one thing and then finding out it's another. That was one of my issues, is I just wanted people to come in and work. And a lot of people didn't understand really what the job was. And so I would go through that process of hiring somebody and kind of explaining what it was. And then they'd actually go do the job, realize they hate it, and quit. So be very specific in your ads or however you're hiring people of exactly what you're wanting to do, what you want them to do. That way you're not wasting their time and you're not wasting your time going through the interview process only to find out that it's nothing that they thought it was going to be. And during that interview process, really emphasize on finding people with very good attitudes that are willing to learn, that are hardworking, that you can train, that are okay with getting some criticism, some feedback, and that they're willing to learn from the mistakes that they're gonna make. Because no matter who you hire, just understand they're gonna make mistakes, just like you did when you first started your business and you're trying to figure things out. There's gonna be mistakes made. It's just how you approach the mistakes that were made that is gonna make a giant difference if that employee is gonna stick around or they're gonna get offended because you just went off on them about some mistake. You yell at them, they leave, you go through the process again, and if you don't learn from that, you are just gonna be just churning through employees constantly. The next thing is the onboarding and training process. You need to have a very robust onboarding and training process. I actually created a system of every single thing that I needed them to do, every process. So it would be like their first day. I knew exactly what I had to do for their first day, their first week, their first month, their 6 months. I just had a very robust plan on everything that they needed to do so they had all the tools necessary to be as successful as they could in my business. If you hire somebody, give them a quick training and throw them out there, there will be way more mistakes. There'll be lots more frustration with you and with the employee and customers. And you're just gonna run into, no one wants to keep failing over and over. So set them up for success. Have the training, make sure the training is long enough and that they're with somebody so that they can learn the correct processes that you have for your business. They're not gonna remember if you just train them for one day. This has gotta be a several week process of training so that they can learn the correct way to do it, how you want them to do it, and just be their coach, be their mentor that entire time. Build them up while you're doing it. And that way, you're gonna have an employee that is seeing that success and feeling good about themselves, and they're gonna wanna stick around because they're doing great. And the other thing I like to do is at the very beginning, I like to give them kind of a career path. So if it is one of those things where you tell them, hey, if you do really good in this aspect of the business, hey, we're looking for supervisors. Well, I'd like to train you up so you could eventually be a supervisor. I'd like to train you up after being a supervisor to being a manager or a trainer or whatever it is. You have to give them some sort of vision of what they can actually do. They don't want to just think, for my business, it was a cleaning business. So they don't just want to be cleaning the rest of their lives. They want to know that there is some sort of progress that they can make in the business. And if they do a good job, which will help motivate them, they will be able to earn more money, have more responsibility, and actually see a future in your business. The next thing is you want to foster a culture of like respect, inclusion, recognition. When we first would hire someone, we had a form they'd fill out, and it was kind of a getting to know you form. But in that form, it had, what are your interests? As simple as what's your favorite snack or candy bar or whatever it is. That way you knew what they liked. And then when you got to a point where you wanted to reward them for something, you weren't just guessing, hey, maybe they like doing this or that, or maybe they like this type of candy. It's small things, but those small things that you do throughout them working for you, they really do appreciate. It sounds super silly, but as simple as giving them their favorite candy bar made a big difference. I mean, we had an employee who was a giant fan of a sports franchise. They'd worked for us long enough and were doing such an excellent job. We sent her and her husband to go watch one of those games. She went to an NBA game, we paid for everything, and she never left. We had her the entire time. And obviously that's kind of a step up in the type of recognition you're giving somebody. But all those small things, find out what their favorite restaurant is, find out what their favorite music is. There's just so many things. We send employees to concerts, we send employees to fine dining places. We give them experiences they probably would have not experienced if they weren't working for us. But the thing is that initial form that we had them filled out really helped us to make sure we are targeting the correct kind of motivators for those employees. And you'll kind of learn as you get to know them that what they like and what they're into, and you can really use that to build a loyalty to your company and to you, which is just huge when you're trying to retain your employees. And like I said, just these small gestures over time make a massive difference. The other thing too is collaborating with your employees. Some of the best ideas that we had as a company came from some of our employees. They just had, hey, why don't we try doing it this way or doing it this way? Never shoot ideas down. If they have ideas and they're good, recognize them for it. And if it's an idea that you end up implementing, give them that credit. Like if you're doing a company meeting and you say, hey, Lindsay had this idea, we implemented it, it's doing great, we really appreciate it, and now we're sending her to a basketball game, or we're sending her to a nice steakhouse, or whatever it is. Make sure that recognition is legitimate, because people can see it from a mile away when it's really disingenuous, the type of recognition that you're giving somebody. So just make sure that you're doing that, and you just really want to foster that culture of, hey, it's okay if I have ideas. You don't want to stifle that, make them feel like they're not part of the team. It just, when somebody feels like they add value in that way, not just by doing their one job, they are part of the team. It's not that they feel like they're part of the team, they are part of the team, and that's what you want to have. The next thing is make sure you have a competitive pay. Find out what your competition is paying, add $1 an hour to that, or whatever it is. And that's gonna get the people interested. You're gonna get way more applicants if you have a competitive pay. If you're trying to undercut, you're not gonna get the best of the best when you're looking to hire somebody. Another thing too, kind of be flexible with work schedules. I mean, if you have a big enough company where you can do like health benefits, even if not, just different types of benefits they can have. Maybe they have access to machines that they could use on their own home or their family's home. So we had a cleaning business. If someone wanted to use one of the carpet cleaning vans to clean their house, they could do that. Just other little benefits like that make a giant difference. But just, I think being flexible with scheduling and things like that makes a huge difference, where some businesses are so regimented in, if you miss that day, or you do this, or if you're late that one time, you're fired. Obviously you have to have a schedule, and obviously they need to be able to do that, but you need to make sure that you're making exceptions for those employees, especially the good ones, where if they went somewhere else, that would never be an option. And then that way there's I don't want to leave. They're really cool about being flexible with my work schedule. I gotta pick my kids up from daycare, or I gotta, go to a ballet performance, whatever it is. And obviously you can't do it every single time, but they will appreciate the times that you are flexible and understanding. And again, it forms more of this almost family environment where they're gonna want to stick around because they know you're a good person. That's one of the big things. Be a good boss. Be the kind of boss that you wanted to work for. Don't be the boss that made you want to start your own business because you hate it. So be that boss that you wish you would have had. And pay is great and it's nice when you're making good money, but if you hate your job, sometimes there's no amount of money that you can pay somebody to keep them around. So pay might bring people in. The culture and environment you have in your company, that is what is going to get people to actually stay and progress as an employee. The pay needs to be competitive, but that's not the most important thing when you're trying to keep people to stay in your company. And like I said in the beginning of this video, make sure the employees can actually see a future with your company. You want to keep that very clear. You want to be having one-on-ones with your employees, like, hey, this is where you're at. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in this company? And then give them the path in order to do that, especially when you have really good employees. You want to make sure you're keeping them engaged and letting them know there actually is a future there. If they just think they're going to be this cleaner and that's all they're going to be, eventually they'll get burned out and eventually they're going to want to leave. So offer training, mentorships, whatever you have to do to let them know, like, hey, I actually care about you. I want you to progress. I see all your talents and what you excel in. Let's work on these things and we can get you to the next level in the company. And when they see that and they see that you care about doing that, that is so powerful that you actually care about their career. That's going to keep them around. All right, here's something you probably haven't thought of. So even after I created this robust training plan and I had everything for the new employees and I was doing really well, we started noticing we were starting to get high turnover again, and we couldn't figure out why. What we found out is a lot of people don't quit the company, they quit the manager. So if you have like just not a good manager or not a good supervisor, that can get people to leave as well. So we identified that supervisor that was kind of being difficult with our employees, and we had to train them up. Like, we had to train the supervisor very specifically on, like, hey, you have to show empathy. You have to be good at coaching. You have to have patience with these people, just like we had patience with you. And so if you're noticing you have all of a sudden this high influx in turnover when things were going good, you immediately need to identify what's going on. And that's what we did. And so during our exit interviews, when employees would want to leave, we would ask them what's going on. And some of them were kind of maybe reserved on telling us, but then we finally found out what was going on, that the supervisor was just being super hard on the employees, and we corrected that. And once we corrected that, the turnover stopped. Even if you have a great, robust plan for keeping your employees around, make sure the leadership in your business, make sure you're having one-on-ones with them. And also, that's why it's so important to have one-on-ones with even the lower employees, so you can get that feedback from, like, hey, Jerry he's just been really mean and kind of like yelling at me or whatever it is. If you are just in the loop with everything that's going on in your company, you can fix these problems a lot faster than if you're just like, I don't know, everyone's leaving, this is crazy. So make sure that even after you've trained people up to be supervisors, managers, whatever they are, make sure you're keeping that line of communication open with all your employees so that there's not onset of people quitting. So stay on top of that. And this last one is something we touched on already, but regularly highlighting achievements, big or small. If you have a sales team and they're doing super awesome, recognize them in front of the entire company. People love recognition, especially positive recognition. So make sure that you're doing that. We would have Christmas parties, we'd have 4th of July parties, we do parties, and we did that not only to let our employees bring their family in and celebrate with their family, but also give us an opportunity to recognize them in front of everyone. And people love that. So just big or small, just make sure that you're doing that. In some capacity, make sure that you are recognizing your employees in front of your other employees. And like I said, it doesn't have to be huge, but everybody loves it. And even just as simple as you got some positive feedback from a customer, recognize them. Like, hey, I got a call from that customer. They said you were very polite, you were efficient, and you did a great job. I just want to let you know, I really appreciate that you did that. Thank you. Thank yous go a long way. So even if you're not doing it in front of everybody, if you have that one-on-one experience with one of your employees, that's gonna make them feel good. It's gonna let them know they're doing a good job. They're gonna wanna stick around and keep doing a good job. It's just positive reinforcement is what really drives people. So I really focused on trying to be as positive as I could with my employees. Now there's times that you had to give them some critical feedback, and that's fine too, but I'd always do the critical feedback and then let them know what they're doing well. That way they're not leaving that meeting or they're not leaving that interaction with kind of a bad taste in their mouth. Just let them know, hey, you didn't do this right. You have to do it this way the next time, but you are doing really good in this, this, and this. And that's just a good way to just keep the vibe and keep that culture as positive as you can. And another thing too is like peer-to-peer recognition. So if you have one employee who's like, hey, John's doing awesome with this or whatever it is, make sure they're telling each other. You wanna build that entire culture. It shouldn't always be coming from the boss that they're doing a good job. It should be coming from their peers. That way you're really building a family that is kind of all in it together, where they are saying, listen, I've been in companies where all it is people just talk crap about each other, and that sucks. And so if you know that your coworkers have your back as well, it makes you wanna go to work. It makes you enjoy work. So kind of encourage that as well. Encourage peer-to-peer recognition, and that's gonna make a huge difference with your employees and with your company's culture as well. And listen, I promise you, if you do all of these steps that we just talked about, and you implement them into your company, you are going to build a company and a culture in your company that's gonna make people wanna stick around. If people love working for you, they're gonna tell people about it. And then you're gonna be getting these quality candidates that wanna come work for you too, because you have a cool place to work. You have a fun place, you have a positive place. That's where people want to work. And so you wanna have that reputation as a company of the great culture. And that's gonna pay massive dividends when it comes to turnover. And like I said at the beginning, and you're not gonna be hiring people that won't stick around for a long time. But I'm curious, what's one retention strategy that worked for you? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. If you have a business and you have lots of questions, or you wanted to start a business, check out unsexybusinessmen.com. We have a ton of videos that help entrepreneurs build their businesses, grow their businesses, and anything that you need, any aspect of business, we have covered and can help you with doing that. So go check it out, unsexybusinessmen.com, and let us help you build your business.